Not in person.
It's one of, no, here, so. No, this will go, it's larger, that way. Oh, it's mine.
I'm not on Zoom.
Yeah. They like to call the meeting of the select board reorg meeting order 1 o'clock, March 6th, 2024. Any additions and deletions? Anything?
I don't have anything.
Well, that's next, so citizens comments.
Okay, so when you come to discuss appointments,
to add a discussion about the public trustee of funds position, please.
I have a comment, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I want to congratulate you all on winning your elections, and those of you who weren't up for election on having a whole other year of getting yelled at by people. I think it's a great team, and I really am glad that it worked out the way it did. I know it probably doesn't have anything to do with this board, and I don't even know if it has anything to do with our town manager, but I was a little bit concerned by a couple of things in yesterday's election. I feel like we could have been better prepared for what we should have known was going to be a higher than usual turnout. And I saw several people walk away. I hope they came back, but I don't know for certain that they did, obviously. And I think that's really unfortunate. And I'm also concerned about the corrals. I realize it's the job of the people running the election to make sure that it's easy to get in and out of the building without any encumbrance, but I think those corrals were a little over the top in the sense of separating people who were advocating for a position or for a bond or something, to be able to really engage in the way that they should be able to. So
You mean that outside?
yeah. No, I mean, inside, nothing, you're not allowed to campaign inside. I mean, that's very clear. But outside, from what I've read in the Vermont statutes, you're allowed to campaign outside as long as you are not hindering access to the polling place. And I think the approach that was taken was a bit over the top, given the fact that, you know, this is Woodstock and there weren't people marching around with grenades or anything. And again, I realize that may not be within the purview of this board.
I just wanted to.
I have been outside the town hall for probably 30 years for one campaign or another, I think, even when I wasn't running. And I have found the last several elections, people are stepping out much more and impeding voters. I was in the corral all day yesterday, and I felt like I was able to talk to people, and I felt that voters, I think voters have felt intimidated in the past few years, and I'm concerned about that because I you know, that's the purpose of election day, not for all of us to be able to jump in front of them and say things. So I didn't mind it. I guess I'll just say that.
For reasons that seem reasonable.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll just add context to both of them. On the second point, to have the barrier set up was my decision, based on a conversation with a police chief and some calls he was getting. With some passions running high on some of the ballots, we thought it was best to be overly cautious than have someone say they were accosted outside and then they didn't vote one way or the other, and then to close votes, and it comes down to, you know, people being turned away, whatnot. So I'll take the heat if saying criticism on that. When it comes to the voting, talking to our town clerk, we had about the same turnout in Woodstock as we do for a presidential primary year. So 2020, 2016, it was around the same. The big issue they had was their machines from the state they got are relatively new, and it takes more time to load the ballots. And with, I think we had 27 petitions, with 27 articles on top of the school, on top of the presidential primary. Some people were putting it through 8 or 9 single sheets, and that caused some of the backup. They did come up with a solution halfway through the day, which was to have a ballot box, so people just drop the ballots off, which cut down on the line, but then increased the time frame of the results after 7 o'clock. But those boxes come from the state, they come directly from the state, and we don't have a say in what we can do on that end.
Now, again, I realize that this was not intentional or malicious on any part, just thinking of it. That's,
No, I think you're not wrong. And I don't see any citizens' comments online.
All right, reorganization of the board.
I make a motion to appoint Ray Bourgeois as chair of the board.
I second.
All those in favor?
I make a motion to appoint Susan Ford. I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Just to adopt the newspapers of record. That's the standard.
Yep, that's the main one, and then the Valley News is a backup, yeah.
I would make that motion. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we have,
I just wanted to say, while we use papers, I would like to also make sure I think the listserv has become increasingly popular. So I would like to make sure our notices continue, while not obligated, but to get posted on the listserv.
Yes. Because there are some departments, you know, but speaking of it, I haven't asked one of you when it was open. So I'd like to make a list of media connection of records so that every meeting goes on.
So we do try our best to put everything on there. We obviously aren't perfect. We do have it on the website by state statute. It needs to be up there. We've also started using the Substack to get it out as well.
I don't know, did it?
No, I don't believe it did, no.
Where is it? Where is this one?
It's on the website. If you go under agendas, it's there.
It doesn't work.
I know. I will take that today was not. But, yeah.
I'm fine with that. Do we have
Is
this?
that gonna work for the town if we make it mandatory to put it on agenda, post meeting notices on the listserv?
I think you can if you want. I mean, we do try to do it all the time. I don't know if I would.
can you look into the possibility and we can look at it next?
Yeah. And that's a better way to do it. Just in case the listserv goes away or something else.
Right.
We want to make sure we're covered.
Maybe talk, well, I guess we'll have all the departments come to us at a meeting coming up, and so maybe we can talk to the other departments about it as well,
Yeah, I think
departments and commissions.
communication from town hall has been an ongoing conversation since at least before I started. And I think it's going to continue to be one.
I think, look, why don't you look into it? And talk to them. We'll see the managers too, and I just think, I don't want to jump into something that's not gonna work. Municipal appointment.
But attached to the agenda is kind of the appointments, the ones highlighted on the right are the ones that have to be reappointed. I have 1 or 2 updates, but I don't think they're so we got confirmed that Brad Prescott will remain the Two Rivers representative. Nicole Green is going to stay on the planning commission. Kim French will stay on the TDRB. Lauren Dursey will stay on the Conservation Commission. But I believe Lynn Peterson is not. So we won't reappoint her.
Kim.
I'm sorry.
Can I move to approve the whole slate?
Well, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Oh, sorry, God.
I have, some concerns with the EDC. It's supposed to be 2 3-year terms, and we don't know how long the EDC has had these members on.
Oh, whether they're term limits.
Yes. And I know the EDC does have term limits.
So if you want, I don't think the EDC has a meeting coming up
Thursday.
next Thursday.
Thursday.
So if you don't reappoint them, they won't be members for next Thursday.
Well, I know
So-
Fred is new, so I have no problem with her. She just got appointed.
So you could,
Green has,
you could appoint them, under the assumption that they won't go past a 2-year term.
Term
Yeah,
limits.
and then we can confirm. And if they have, then they won't be appointed.
that makes sense.
You want to make that motion?
I-
Or amend it?
I'll amend my motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Letter of engagement for financial. due
We
diligence.
need,
Oh,
we need to do
the
the,
public trustees.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that was gonna be under discussions, was it not?
oh,
Discussion.
okay.
Or-
sorry.
yeah.
I thought it was with appointments. but-
Well, actually, I think Jill is gonna advocate for a vote, so maybe we should actually vote on a vote.
Sure.
I'm gonna advocate against it, but.
So there should have been 2 trustees of public funds on the ballot. There was an error made. There are 2 of us who are willing to serve. And yesterday we both got votes. One had I had 600, and Lauren, who's online, had 457, which I think is an endorsement that you have 2 people who are willing to do it, enthusiastic and accepted by the public. So I would ask you not to go through the rigmarole of advertising for a job that's been empty for a year, but to treat Lauren with respect and appoint her to something and correct the error that was made.
I appreciate what Jill said and Lauren's willingness to run and be engaged with our municipality. We obviously want to encourage people to be here and support us and go through the process. I do have a state statute in front of me, chapter 33, subsection 006, 961, which basically kind of lays out what should happen if a town office is not filled. And they say that the select board should post a vacancy in 2 public places within 10 days of the creation of that vacancy. So I read that as of right now, there's an open spot. It's day 1. The select board has 10 days to post all the open spots and then do whatever process they want. I think when we had open select board, at one point we had interviews and applications. Another one, we just appointed someone right afterwards. The select board would take the same approach, but I would just advise to post it first and then appoint someone after the fact, just so we're covered in case any issues. And there's some other spots we do have to advertise as well, because there are other open positions, so we don't post them all at once and go from there, would be my advice to the board.
Is there a distinction because there was an error in the ballot? I mean, there wasn't really an open spot because there weren't 2.
So we can get into the details of this. But what happened was when both applicants submitted their petition, they both put the 3-year term, and the spot that was open was a 2-year term, based on they hadn't been filled for a year. So they both put under the 3-year one. This error we should have caught, but at the same time, their petition both said 3 years at the same time. So that's where it kind of came into the unknown area. So I just advise the board to follow state statutes, but board is allowed to do what they want.
And I'd argue that we don't fit into state statutes because of the error.
Any comment?
So if there wasn't an error, would we have had to gone through this?
No,
statute?
no, there would have been 2 slots on the ballot with 2 different names and a purpose.
So arguably, there should have been 2 spots and one should have been vacant.
No, one should have had Lauren's name on it and one should have had
Well,
my
But
name
if you
on it.
both have put down the 3-year term and not a 2-year term, right?
Oh, right, and then we could have had a write-in campaign for
Right,
Lauren.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I work with Lauren at the inn and I know she's really qualified for this, so I hate to have to see her
I mean,
be delayed.
yeah, I think it's still late. So what's gonna happen?
When's your next meeting?
It's our next. meeting.
For the public trustees
Oh.
funds, we have 2 decisions to make next week.
I think considering it's an error that's shared, I would like to move forward and appoint personally. Regardless of, I think the state statute is helpful, but I do feel like we should have caught the error. And she did collect signatures for a petition to appear on the ballot. Who was voted.
Did you make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
The motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren, for being willing to serve.
Yes, very excited.
Next is the letter of engagement.
So as we discussed at the last meeting, the board decided to go forward with Gallagher Flynn and Company to do the financial due diligence on the Aqueduct Company. I shared at that meeting kind of what they were looking at. In front of you is kind of the actual tasks they would do and how they would do about it. Before this meeting, the chair and the vice chair and myself had a conversation with them where we asked some more in-depth questions. I think I was satisfied with the answers. I'm not sure what the board's thought. So what the time frame would be, and what I'm asking today is for the board to give me approval to sign this engagement with Flynn. The Aqueduct is meeting tomorrow with the shareholders and with the board to finalize or to officially approve the letter of intent the select board signed. They gave Gyre Billings the approval to sign it, so we get the process going. But they'll actually have the full vote of both board and stockholders by Friday morning, at which point I would then sign this letter, and then we would be engaged with Gallagher to do the financial due diligence. They laid out today about a 3 to 6 week process, depending on how easy it is to get the information and how easy it is to analyze it. So that's what you have in front of you.
So is there a motion to approve Eric's letter after he hears that the Aqueduct is willing to move forward?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Aye.
Postings of elected position.
So, it's only a broken record, Title 24, Chapter 33, subsection 6, 961 of the state statutes, lists that any position that's open has to be posted by the board within 10 days. So I'd recommend that any open position that currently exists after yesterday's voting be posted and we receive any interest from residents. And that, at which point, anyone who comes forward, we can bring to the board, and then we create a process for them.
So it's the only open position on our sheet is the one Conservation Commission member, and then we have,
So there is an open position on the EDC,
okay,
on the Finance Committee. And
Oops.
then anyone also who doesn't accept, the letter that we'll send out to them.
okay,
We also have, the town has not yet voted to get rid of the auditor, the town position, so those 3 positions are also open as well. And I'm sure there's a few more that we're forgetting that are open.
and the EDC meets
Thursday.
For a second.
Thursday, so, yeah,
And we're still voting answer on Todd Elm.
Okay.
Motion.
I know that's just what we're gonna do. Yeah, that's just what we have to do. So no votes necessary.
Lastly, the reschedule of the March meeting. In that day,
Yeah, the trustees, the village meeting is that night on the
19th.
19th, when select board is scheduled to have the meeting. So I think we originally talked about doing during the day. I think 10 AM and 9 AM were thrown around, but I don't know if we've come to a final decision or not.
9 was the last time that we talked about. And Carrie, are you going to be able to do that? I know you had a conflict.
I
So we need a motion for that, don't we? Do we
Yeah.
need to?
Yeah.
To reschedule the March meeting for March 19th, 9 AM.
there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
For information, the students from Vermont State University came to the South Woodstock plant yesterday, and Tim Lyons, incredibly thorough tour. And Mark Hunter was there to answer questions, and my calendar shows that we'll have something preliminary from them the afternoon of the 19th. So,
Great.
So last one is town meeting information review session. We've on there kind of just talk about how it went. Now we're 11 days ago, how it went yesterday. I think Roger already brought up the conversation about the ballots going through the box and kind of being outside, but I didn't know if the board wanted to kind of have a larger conversation about everything, so.
I had a few points just to jump off of Roger's feedback. I think that we've talked about in the past, and certainly I think we should get a head start on this, standardizing the language for the articles, especially the special articles, so that people understand that we are raising taxes, not just appropriating, and that we communicate those to the people that are interested. I think there's also, I think we learned a lot this year in terms of how we can communicate better with the public. I think some of that can be done in the town report. I think some of that can be done online, and I think some of that can be done in the information session. Greg and I were talking about yesterday. More than one
Yeah.
information session to help educate the public on what's involved in the article. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on that, but I also, to Roger's point, if I could go back to the operation of yesterday, I do think it's important, as if we do start to see higher turnout, that we're reevaluating and making sure that we're, prepared for higher turnout as we move forward. We've got at least 2 more elections this year. So it's good for us to work with the clerk's office to make sure, and the justice of the peace to make sure they have everything they need ahead of time.
Can they get a second machine?
I was told they cannot. Yeah, it's the state allocates them.
our old machine was so much faster.
We could get more pens. Yeah,
More pens.
more pens.
Well, if people wouldn't take them home.
Yeah.
That's true.
Need a security check.
They put a wine bar in the line, I wouldn't have mattered.
And I did see most of the people that turned away came back,
Yes.
which was nice.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I just,
No, but they shouldn't have had to do
shouldn't work.
that. Exactly.
It could also be better about making sure that information is aligned, website, 10 o'clock opening hours, not upstate.
Yeah.
And that causes confusion. And I also heard reports of people receiving the wrong piece of paper in ballot.
Yeah.
So some people did not receive the page with school bond ballot.
Yes.
And others not the presidential. I mean, it was a
Hit or
mishmash.
miss.
Yeah, it wasn't any one ballot
Not
that was
great standard.
consistently missing. No.
Yeah.
And I think if we have a second informational meeting, I think that should be done tonight,
Mm,
a Saturday morning and an evening.
meeting.
And I think too, doing at least one in here when we have the Zoom,
Zoom.
because down there, we're just using a laptop because all the technology we have. So having it in here where we can film it, and maybe it's just the board talking about going through everything without comments, just we can get something recorded in a nice way. But I think, so back to one of Laura's points about town meeting as a whole, and I know Susan sent out a list of calendar topics. I think we should make sure that town meeting probably starts around the budget process, so end of August, September, so we are not having the same conversation next year, because what happens is come December, we get so inundated with stuff and timelines that we fall back on what we've done in the past, and I think it's good to, if we can start having conversations in August. There's also been conversations about how to have the budget and nonprofits work. So those conversations should start earlier too, so nonprofits are aware of what it may look like, so they can prepare properly for that as well.
Definitely. Sooner we do that, the better.
And in terms of format, I know a lot of people yesterday who advocated staying for the Australian ballot process. Obviously, the measure that we did this year was temporary for everything to be from the Australian ballot. So if we want to change it permanently, we would have to have a
Meeting.
a public hearing where we vote on it from the floor. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think we need to. I don't think we would have had enough people at a town meeting that make. Downstairs holds about 250 people. 1,300 people, over 1,300 people came and voted.
So I think the board probably has to have a discussion about, we're looking at potentially a few special town meetings between now and next March. Of maybe trying to schedule them out so they can be not only warned properly, but then advocating it, the word out about why we're having them, to make sure that everyone knows what's going on and we have time to kind of stay at a case what we want.
I think having this sooner, as close to town meeting as we can, when it's properly warned, and have it be an evening meeting, as we usually do, would be beneficial, so that we don't wait until later in the year. For
And
town
while
meeting.
it's still fresh in everyone's mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So if everybody can look at the list I sent this
Yeah.
morning and just let me know, because I think then Eric and I can start putting months to the different topic things, and I would like to get that out so that everybody in the public also has an expectation that, oh, you know, the select board is going to hit this topic in this month, and they'll be prepared for us.
So I have a question.
We're talking about, obviously, a town meeting about town meeting, and that's, and then a town meeting about the water company, I assume. And what else, what are the other potential special town meetings?
I don't know if it's meetings, it's not just public hearings, right?
I would look up what the terminology is, but it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to be, we're gonna have to have, well, if the board decides to potentially get changed town meeting to Australian ballot, that has to be, if the select board decides to acquire the aqueduct and the bond is needed, there'll be a meeting for that. For the wastewater plant,
And that's got a board vote, right? Is that correct? Or is that not?
that's a bond vote, so it'll be Australian ballots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. I see.
Oh,
So you're talking about the vote to purchase, to go out for the bond. But do you have to have a vote about actually acquiring one?
so the select board can vote to acquire real estate and companies.
Oh, okay, great.
If there's no cost associated with it, or it's a budgeted cost. If it's a bond, then it has to go to the,
I'm just thinking that if you're gonna have several, at least at least one town meeting where you're gonna have to have a floor vote, correct?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have informational meetings. Is there any reason those can't be combined so that we draw a larger audience potentially?
Question for you, Roger. Do you think that, you know, as a citizen, the capacity for folks to handle more than one issue at a time would be welcome?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, I just, you know, the more meetings you have, the less people get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not that that's necessarily, that there's certain circumstance, but, I don't know, it's something to think about, because I guess the aqueduct is time sensitive, right? Or very time sensitive in the sense that we can't add any more people to it. The floor vote, on going to all Australian ballot, is time sensitive in the sense that it has to take place well before whatever the hell we're calling it
Yeah.
next year. But I don't know, other people know how sensitive these time sensitivities are better than I do, so I don't know, it's just something to think about. You're right, I don't have an answer whether it would actually be better or whether people can hold on to two whole ideas in their head at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'll be a challenge for us to balance, doing the normal work of the select board month by month with tackling these big questions and scheduling them so people can get all the information, get the correct information, but also take in consideration with the aqueduct, the consequences of waiting and what that means, and then how that fit into the schedule, because Jill's here and what she'll say is every day that we can't build a house, we fall further behind. Yeah.
I guess the other thing, the issue of payment, both for the aqueduct and for all wastewater bond. There's gonna be a lot of blood on the floor, so maybe that would be better.
Which company gonna get to be a $2 million, nothing else, nice.
And the wastewater one, I think, pretty set. We're gonna.
We're looking at
vote will
November.
be in November,
yeah.
when we have a regular election. So it'll be,
Okay.
but we'll be having a lot of talks in the
I think it would be
meantime.
a good idea to take that, because I didn't know that. And maybe I should, but I didn't know that. And people are gonna start getting anxious, especially when you talk about the aqueduct, because the same issue is gonna affect.
Right.
Or at least it's gonna trigger people to think, it's like, why the hell do I think?
Yeah, so we have a conversation with the current engineers of the main wastewater plants this coming week, where they're gonna lay out the schedule, and also, I think advocate to keep using them. And at that point, we'll know for sure, because we'll actually schedule the bond vote with them, and then we'll work backwards on how to do everything from there.
Okay, great.
And the finance committee can do something.
It's not a public meeting, it's just a get together, so, I'll talk to the board and we can get back to you.
Any other business?
And so I want to clarify what you just said. It's not, the whole select board's not gonna be there. The chair and the vice chair are invited, so I want to say that. It's not a private meeting. We have a select board.
Again, any other business? Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome back. And I'm giving up my long dream of becoming a town lumber inspector.
Well,
Fence viewer.
Fence viewer would be my second choice.
Yeah.
The lumber inspector do.
I don't know, I just imagine him pulling out a job site and say, this was supposed to be oak and it's walnut. I don't know.
Or is it expecting him?
I think just looking at trees.
I haven't seen anybody on our road. Tree warden, Don Wheeler did come to my house to look at my tree.